Hello, welcome to Friday I'm in Bed.
Podcast for midlife women living their best life, but in bed by 10. This week on Friday I'm in Bed, we're starting with a new media narrative around angry women. Apparently, we've all got green hair, nose piercings, vote a certain way, care about the planet and don't want children, and somehow that's become something to be scared of. We're unpacking the whole manosphere versus femosphere debate and asking who benefits from this narrative and why now?
And then we're talking about Stella McCartney's new collaboration with H&M. She's built a reputation as the ultimate sustainable designer. So what happens when that meets fast fashion? Is it a cash grab or is there a genuine opportunity to shift things from the inside or just more greenwashing?
And in our bonus content for Zine subscribers, we're getting into drinking culture in Parliament. Should MPs be allowed to drink throughout the day and then vote on decisions that affect the country? It comes after Green MP Hannah Spencer said the House of Commons smelt of alcohol. And unsurprisingly, not everyone is happy about it. So grab a cuppa and let's get into it.
Hello, Kate. Happy, actually not Friday, because obviously we record on Wednesdays. How has your last week been?
Hello. My last week has been all right. I think last week I said my stress levels were growing, increasing. I think that's the phrase. They're nearly peaking, I think. They're nearly at peak. Daughter's got first GCSE on Friday, so the day this comes out, and she's got a bad wrist. She had a football injury years ago. And it comes and goes and it's flared up and she can't write. Her hand is strapped and she's in a lot of pain. And I'm like, wow, we've got 48 hours to fix the hand. And yeah, my son's final project is tomorrow. My stepmother had an accident in London and unfortunately has broken quite a few bones. So that, and my mum's in hospital today. It's just like, that I think it's definitely the sandwich generation, as we're often described, thing of like parents and children. Obviously, not everyone has children, you included, but it's that feeling of like, my God, all I need now, touch wood, is the dog. Something will happen to the dog. Like, I can't cope. I won't say that. I did touch wood when I said that. But it is that feeling like, what next? So that's me.
Well, I've spent like the whole weekend in a like shepherd's hut in the hills near Oldham.
Yes.
Just like listening to birds, relaxing. That was lush. So my husband had a dry stone walling course on which he broke his finger. It's fine. It's very bruised, but yeah, he's fine. But yeah, no, I did no such activities. I read my book, sat outside, enjoyed the scenery. Yeah, it was all lovely. So yeah, I was quite chill, and now all of a sudden I'm back at work.
Yeah, I've made a conscious decision that I don't have a lot of work on in May. I have like my normal work, but I don't have anything extra. I don't have like any big piece of work to do. So I've made the conscious decision that I am going to step back in May. Obviously, I'm still working, so I'm not like off, but just I'm going to have to lean into all of this stuff that's going on and be mummy and daughter, I feel. Otherwise, I think my sanity is going to go. So I think I'm just going to try and like go with the flow in May and not like stress about work and stuff like that.
Yeah, don't take anything else on. That's it, apart from podcasts.
Yeah, I can always talk, Gemma.
Yeah, no, this is the good bit. This is the good bit of the week. We go, oh no, I have to talk about things that are annoying me this week with Kate. Oh no,
it's great therapy.
I ever do.
Get it off my chest.
Speaking of which, I have my cuppa. It's chai latte. Do you have yours or your can of Coke, whatever it is you're on with today?
It's still a can of Coke, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Caffeine it's my lunchtime can of Coke that I have. So yeah, lots to talk about. Plus, we have bonus content.
Woo!
So the zine went out for the first time on Saturday morning. Have you subscribed, everybody? If not, there will be a link somewhere in the show notes, I'm sure, below. If you're watching it on YouTube, the links are out there. And there will be bonus content coming out on Saturday. So you can hear us moaning and ranting and putting the world to right about another issue that has got our goat. Is that actually a phrase?
Yes, no, I think, yeah, it is. I'm not.
This week.
It sounds stupid now you say it, but it is a phrase.
Okay. The Got Our Goat podcast. Subscribe.
Right. Let's crack on. So the first thing I want to talk about today is angry young women, which is sort of us, or maybe it was once. Angry middle-aged women, angry midlife women,
Angry women.
Just angry women. You could be angry at any time. Basically, this comes from an article that was in the New Statesman in mid-April, entitled "Meet the Angry Young Women." Now, it's not that unsympathetic when you read it, but some of the women that were quoted in it who'd spoken to the journalist were quite annoyed about how they were represented. So the story was "Meet the Angry Young Women, the New Feminism Reshaping Britain." That was the exact title. It's behind a paywall, but I have read it and got the PDF. Am I allowed to say that?
No idea. Am I allowed to put it in the zine? I don't know. I'm angry enough to do it.
It's a long article. She went around the country talking to feminist influencers. She hung out at a Unison Ceilidh in South London, going on the Palestine March, sitting in on a uni feminist book swap in Leeds. The headline finding from their polling, which was run by Merlin Strategy, look how detailed my notes are today, was that women aged 18 to 30 are by now far the most progressive demographic in the UK. So they're 26 percentage points less likely than young men to feel positive about capitalism, and 21 points less likely to think they'll out-earn their parents. I don't think I will out-earn my parents either, but my parents probably made better career choices than I did. The gap is also biggest amongst women who went to university. Now, none of that is particularly surprising to me. I don't know about you. It's kind of an attempt to take this group seriously, and then the right-wing press got hold of it. So the other article that has prompted me to go, right, I really want to talk about it now, is a piece that was in the Telegraph titled "Forget the Manosphere, it's angry lefty women we need to worry about." Yeah!
Power to the people. Yeah.
Again, also paywalled. Have read it. Her argument, briefly, was that young women have been radicalised by Greta Thunberg, seems to be largely to blame for this, apparently. I can't remember how, Alexandria Cortez, forget her middle, AOC in the US. They're full of ceaseless dread and fury about toxic masculinity, TERFs and fossil fuels, which reminds me, we haven't done fossil fuels on here. We should probably... They don't want to get married. They don't want kids. They want to overturn capitalism without apparently having the faintest grasp of basic economics, which I'm sure that the author has plenty of grasp of that. And apparently this, not the manosphere, the one with the body count that's causing deaths, that's what we should really be worried about. Yes, that goes on for quite a while. Her proposed solution at the end of the article, did you get that far in the article?
No, I was so angry I turned off.
Okay, so she's very concerned about women not wanting to get married and have children. So she suggests we stage a civic version of Love Island, where scores of unhappy green voting young women can be stuck on an island with a troop of cavalry officers or Royal Marines.
Well, no, we just want to be on the island. We don't want the Royal Marine.
Yeah, leave us alone.
Just put us all on an island. We'll be happy.
She calls it Leftie Island, and it could be the salvation of humanity.
It could, yeah.
So
make it the whole of Britain. It's an island.
So obviously there's several themes to discuss. The false equivalence between the femosphere and the manosphere, as they're calling it. There's a constant framing in it talking about these often attractive young women, and they're focusing on their hair and their piercings, that kind of thing. There is why the young women are actually angry, and is it justified? Maybe. I mean, yeah, we're not long out of the Rape Academy story, are we? So luxury beliefs is an interesting one, which is from a US commentator, Rob Henderson, and goes back to our wine moms that we spoke about earlier in the year, where like privileged women complain because they can afford to, essentially. So, they're not engaging with the argument. Just undermine the person making the argument. Yeah, so there's so much stuff in there, and then we finally end up with Leftie Island. So would you go stay on Leftie Island?
Well, as I said anecdotally before, we live on an island. Why don't we just make it Leftie Island?
Yes.
And then, that would be amazing. There's a couple. I wrote some notes just as you were speaking. Not that you can really see them in that.
Okay.
What about? So these are my literal first thoughts, apart from rage, obvs. What about the lefty men? Because there's plenty of men out there actually not happy with the state of the planet, and the violence and capitalism and. So that's a bit like, okay, let's just make it a gender thing, shall we? Let's just make the gender war, inverted commas, worse. I've written down uni. You said about they're often university, which it's like, so they're educated, so they read and they have potentially critical thinking, depending on what they studied in university. But one presumes, that's interesting, isn't it? Because we've talked a lot about how we seem to have lost the ability to critically think. It made me think about, they're saying it's young people, but literally that was me at university in 1991, going on marches. So I was that person. I didn't have green hair, but I did have shaved hair. So this isn't like new news, if you know what I mean. And yeah, we'll talk about luxury beliefs, because I think that's just an interesting one in itself. I think there is something around people, women, men who have privilege. It's almost easier to sit and make all these claims or do all the, it's harder, but it doesn't mean that
it's wrong. Yeah,
wrong.
I mean, of course it's easier, because you've got the luxury of not being at work for 17 hours a day to try and earn enough money to pay your gas bill, so you can be angry on other people's behalf.
And one of the things that the right do is the amount of people who are less affluent, who are sucked in by the right, when you want to say to them, but actually they're not going to make your life better. There's a whole debate around that. I'd love to mention at some point, if that's okay, David Hay on I'm a Celebrity saying about, the whole pretty girl, fat girl narrative. There's just like loads of, or ugly girl. And
that's one of the things we can be angry about, because
yeah, absolutely. So there's
men who think things like that are out there. Apart from, do we want to go and live on Leftie Island, in which I would say yes, as long as they don't actually put the Marines on there.
Yeah, I don't want the Marines there. Why would I want them there?
Just send the left.
But you know why they probably think that we need the Marines to provide, fish for us, look after us, protect us on Leftie Island. But the fact is we don't need protecting if it's just us on Leftie Island.
Yeah. Who against? So I think the first thing I want to talk about is that the manosphere and the femosphere. Yeah. So do you think there is any equivalence to them at all?
Well, I suppose, at the base level, one is a group of men who are unhappy, and the other is a group of women who are unhappy. So I suppose at that basic level, and one is women and one is men, that it's gendered. But I think the manosphere bit is obviously a huge part of the conversation, because it's another thing that has made women and girls, and remember they're talking about young women here, and I am a mother of a teenage girl, and I'm seeing what's happening in schools and what she's dealing with and listening to and stuff. Because of that, they are angry and scared and determined to create a life that's on their terms, which is no different from, the suffragettes or the 60s, 70s wave of feminism or whatever. It's just the next stage. But because the manosphere is out there, and by that, obviously, incel culture, the podcast boys, bros, all of that, they see the end result and are at the brunt of it. So of course they're angry. So I think it is really relevant, but it's the whole one versus the other. Well, is it?
No, see, that's what I see. There was some kind of genuinely misandrist content that was kind of highlighted in the article. Of course, it's out there. I mean, there's the research that what is it? Did I have that on my notes? Probably not. I write all these stats down, and then the actual thing that I want to say isn't on there about how quickly young men see misogynistic content when they're online. Whereas, I mean, I'm almost perpetually online, and I've seen very little content that I would call genuinely, misandrist or dangerous, encouraging violence against men. So we don't pretend that it doesn't exist at all, though, but I don't think that the reach of that kind of content compared to like the manosphere content is equivocal at all. I mean, when they're talking about these angry men, the men seem to be angry at women for not giving them what they want, whereas we're saying that women are angry about Gaza, capitalism, climate change, the medical establishment dismissing them so that they die earlier. I feel like that feels a bit more like justified anger.
But it's just broader, isn't it? And it's looking at the whole picture. What's one of the things that's frustrating about the manosphere is, yes, a large part of their anger and blame is on women, when we know that a lot of what is upsetting them about life is because of the patriarchy. It's because of the government. It's because of the media. It's not, they're kind of funneling it into hating women or blaming women. But actually, the things that we're frustrated about are some of the things that they're frustrated about, but it's not packaged the same from the people that are instigating it.
So why do we think it is that it seems to be women that are angry about this and the men that are talking about it aren't angry about those same things? I mean, men go to university too.
Of course.
So
but
we can't blame university.
Yes, but it's really worth saying that the lefty issue isn't just women. The Telegraph have decided, they've decided to frame it as us, because of course it's buying him back into this patriarchal thing and this manosphere thing, that we are the problem when it's the system that's the problem. So, and there are men at university, as you said, and they see it's the system. So it's not women that are just on Leftie Island. There are plenty of men that want to come and join Leftie Island too and care about the planet. So it feels actually, is it like the manosphere being one smaller group? I know we think it's big, but it's not, versus a bigger, very loud group of women, not just girls, because it's not just young women that are angry. So does it feel more threatening to somebody, whoever the person that writes it is? I don't know.
See, I kind of see that. So this is kind of the generation they're talking about, the Gen Zs.
Yeah.
They grew up kind of perpetually online, whereas, so I'm Xennial. I didn't get a mobile phone till I was at university, and that was one where you had like a character limit on texts and and then I got one with Snake and I was super excited. So
they're seeing more.
But this generation has been seeing this from a young age. They've grown up to Me Too and then COVID, and then they're seeing Gaza, and they're seeing all this stuff in real time. Yeah. Which is kind of a privilege that we didn't have to deal with that. So we're kind of lucky without having to see that. So I'm kind of not surprised that they're angry if they see that kind of stuff about the world. Whereas when I was a teenager, all I saw was what was in the newspapers. So it was newspapers like the Telegraph that were setting that kind of standard. So even though I was angry, I wasn't seeing other people that would maybe amplify that anger and feeling it wasn't quite so easy to coordinate, I guess. I mean, I was thinking a lot about Riot Girl recently and zines and that kind of thing after we started our e-zine, our zine newsletter, about how that was the way, but they took time to distribute and photocopy and send out there.
Oh, see, I don't know, because I did. So I was going to marches at 17 and anti-apartheid things, and so I was getting that information from somewhere, and it wasn't from zines. I wonder, although there were zines, but I wonder if it was partly in the community that I was in. So I was very punk. By the time I was 17, I would describe myself as punk. I was a goth at 14. I had shaved hair and I wore army boots, and I was angry with the world. But then we all were in our, in my sphere, if you like, in our sort of community. But we must have learned about it from somewhere. And it was very left-leaning. And at that point, Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister. So the media's always been right-wing, let's face it. I mean, not all of it, but most of it. Yeah. So we got it from somewhere.
Yeah, see, that's what I was wondering about, because I did the same. I went to a really big anti-Nazi League march in the mid-90s. It was absolutely massive. Like, the Levellers played at the gig at the end of it. I was DMs, but yeah, I was Riot Girl, I guess, Bikini Kill, Huggy Bear, and Mambo Taxi kind of bands. And yeah, but I don't know, because my parents read the Daily Mail, but also I found out about these things from somewhere, but maybe flyers were a big thing.
I think it's music. So I
went to a lot of gigs.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously I'm older than you. So it was like 80s, 86, 87. I listened to New Model Army, and it was all about system. They were the lyrics. They were the words. I think maybe this is now then tied in with the green hair piercings narrative, the punk, because alternative music is generally, let's just say 95%. There is some kind of far right alt rock out there, but generally speaking, it's pretty much all left wing, and it's radical thinking, and it's global issues. They talk about poverty, they talk about politics. So I wonder how much is actually tied into and I don't mean like indie like Blur, I mean alternative, sorry to the Blur fans, I mean like real alternative, you know, like punk or All Right Girl or whatever, you know, because they were talking about those issues.
Blair were like the entryway drug.
Yeah. I was past it by then.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we used to hang out. There was the Forum in Tunbridge Wells was our gig place. We would go every weekend and see like kind of tiny indie bands and stuff. And I think there was a lot of that out there. So maybe that's how it got. But yeah, that's the other thing, that the framing, they're always focusing on like women's appearance in this and how they are. She'll call them often attractive, but then describe all the ways that they're kind of not living up to that attractiveness, like green hair, piercings. So it's like, oh, they could be so pretty.
If only you didn't have a nose piercing. Yeah, and there was, as you know, I'm a big Married at First Sight fan, and there was a guy on there called, his name's gone from my brain, proper manosphere guy. Literally, I don't want a woke woman was what he said. But he kept talking about, I don't want a woman with green hair and a nose ring. He kept talking about it. And I remember watching it thinking, like, mate, shut up about the green hair. Like, he's a bit obsessed about green hair. I feel like he secretly likes it because he's going on about it. But it's really interesting because now you've shared that article. It's green hair and a nose ring. I mean, it's literally, as you said, it's like, oh, she could be so pretty. It's, you know, if only she had natural hair and did Pilates. That's for the Pilates princess debate. But
look, I love my Pilates.
So do I.
You know,
but it's that.
You can do it and have tattoos and green hair.
But that's not what they think. They think, you know, you need to drink matcha. No, it's all just like tied into that narrative of what the perfect woman mustn't. We talked about dating, didn't we? However long ago at the podcast, about how no drama, I think men want no drama, which basically means no woman with a political opinion.
Well, this is what, she describes her nephews as happy-go-lucky and baby positive. And you go, well, that's nice for them.
It's great, but also it's fine to be baby positive and it's fine to say I don't want children. Like, come on. Oh, I'm getting angry. So the looks thing is like, and it's so stereotypical, isn't it? Like, if you're, you know, that view of to be left wing, you have to look alternative or whatever. And it's like, there are plenty of women that don't look alternative that feel like this, and men, but also let's just stereotype. It's just, I think it's lazy.
See, again, it's a lot of that's like the starting limit for like not fitting in to the traditional mold. And that's when they then go on to the not wanting marriage, not wanting kids. They talk about voting green a lot because that's the new. I mean, it was Labour, obviously, when I was a teenager. I was 18.
It was Labour 18 months ago.
Yeah, I was 18 when, I turned 18 a week after the election where Labour came into power in the 90s, just saying, because almost all of my friends could vote and I could not. So that was quite irritating. So generation of women who are apparently voting green, don't marry, don't reproduce, don't share household politics with their partner. So that's like a real, like a threat to the structure. They said, there were 30 final years in Leeds that they surveyed, and nearly all the men wanted to be married with kids by 30, and only 3 of 15 women that they asked wanted to. So, I mean, good luck with that, guys. But I can see that because these guys are not envisaging a world where they are going to be the ones bringing up the children. When they're envisaging having children, they're not envisaging a world where that's going to impact their career after they've left university. So again, this is that position of privilege.
Very much so.
Where they've got the privilege to want that, whereas women are very aware that these young women are very aware that they will be making a choice if they have children between moving their career on at 30. Remember, bearing in mind that these will be like 21. So it's, 8-9 years is not a long time to be building a career. And then to say that by 30, you're going to be married with children it is going to be a big cut-off for you.
This guy, I wish I could, actually, I think it's probably quite good. I can't remember his name. On Married at First Sight, on the wedding day, said, I want 5 kids. I want 5 kids. And she was like, who's going to have them? And he was like, well, you obviously. And she was like, 5 kids. And he was like, how hard can it be? You just need to feed them and change them or something. I don't know what it is.
Like they're a chia pet.
And she was like, but I'm going to have them. Like what? It's all very well this kind of, I want lots of kids, which I am seeing. I know I keep going back to reality TV, but I keep seeing it. I want lots of kids, but I want to be a dad. That's what it is. They keep saying, I want to be a dad, but they never communicate why. And we talked about it, didn't we, with Stephen Bartlett, the race, the human race dying out, or their genes dying out type of thing. And they're talking about fathering as just a genetic transfer, like my genes, my DNA has progressed through the world. And it's like, they're just seeing it differently. Whereas we're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to have it, the baby, obviously actually deliver it, carry it for 9 months and then be the primary carer. It's not, forget my genes. This is bigger. So yeah, privilege.
Yeah. And those luxury beliefs. So I think that can kind of vary depending on what kind of level of privilege you've got, isn't it? And that's always the thing to talk with about privilege, just being poor doesn't mean you don't have white privilege or male privilege, or you can still be not privileged in some areas and privileged in other areas. So in this particular instance, women don't have the privilege to be thinking about having children as just some kind of lifestyle issue. They know that it will be affecting their career, their bodies, and then their whole lives. It's not going to be they don't get the slippers under the table when they come home and go, hey kids, this is your 15 minutes today. So they know that's a choice they've got to make. Whereas men have the luxury and the privilege of saying, oh, yeah, I'd love to have kids. I'm going to have this amazing career and kids, and it's going to be fantastic.
I was ranting about this very thing last week. I watched the hustings of all the candidates for the Welsh Assembly, and all of them, bar one, guess the one, does not support more free or affordable childcare. So a lot of them are talking about the childcare being unaffordable and we need to help, basically. But the reform person has said no, like doesn't even mentioned it. But yeah, they're the same party that have talked about potentially taxing women for not having babies. So we know they want they want us to have babies, don't they? And they'll tax us if we don't, has been one suggestion. But they're not prepared to support with childcare. Of course, because they just want us at home. And then you think, well, no wonder educated women that are listening, reading, hearing, it's like, you just want me to be a baby provider at home, and I don't want to do that. I actually would like a baby, but I'd like to be able to afford my life, to afford to have one. You know what I mean? And a life. And a job, and no.
Yeah, see, that's why I think women hear different things when they hear policies like that. They see the immediate impact that's going to be on them, whereas I don't think men necessarily see that. So do you think it's justified anger? But bearing in mind that we are talking about an 18 to 30 age group here, so we are not in the 18 to 30 age group. So technically, this does not refer to us, even though I do feel quite angry. And personally, I identify a lot with what these people are saying. And obviously, I feel like I was also an angry young woman between 18 and 30. It's just that we weren't online as much. Do you think that these young women are justifiably angry and pessimistic?
Yes, because in your 20s is the time you leave university or you leave school and you think, well, I want to get a job. Like, what am I going to do with my life? You've had years of careers advice at school, so you're thinking about your career, you're thinking about your future. Also, we still live in a society through the media, through film, where, falling in love and the next stage of our life is a thing, whether it's with babies, without babies, and that's the sort of thing a lot of us think about in our 20s. What are we going to do for a career? Am I going to have a baby one day? Yeah, you might not be having them yet, but you're making those decisions whilst also experiencing life for the first time in the real world. And so if you're being met by manosphere stuff, it's going to make you angry. But also, you have to have a baby. Well, I don't think I want a baby, and you might not have made all your decisions then, but you're met with all this stuff. I think the 20s is a decade where you change and develop and learn who you are so much, because in your teens, you're just at school, hating life because you're at school. And in your 30s, you're kind of on your way. Not always, but, on your way, whether that's in a career or maybe you have got family or, got a bit more money maybe. 40s, 50s, you're like going, actually, I want to do all those things I meant to do. So I think the 20s is definitely...
What did I do with my 20s? And
I know, really, it's time to go back. So I think the 20s is such a time of growing and like, what am I doing? Who am I going to be? I think there's a lot of that. Well, it was for me anyway, because you don't do any of that thinking as a teenager. You kind of do, but you're at school and you just follow the rules.
I mean, honestly, I am surprised more women aren't angry. I'm seeing online really is I see these alleged angry young women, but increasingly I'm seeing women who weren't angry young women who were creating content about, quite gentle content about maybe body image and, that kind of thing maybe was about as political as they've got. I am increasingly seeing these women getting absolutely outraged as more and more stuff comes up in the news with Me Too, Epstein files, this rape academy thing, all of this. I'm seeing women who were not angry young women being radicalized, I guess these articles would say. And they don't have green hair and piercings. They are conventionally attractive. Should I say normal women? You know what I mean.
Mainstream.
Yeah. What they would call as mainstream. They're not on this alternative side. And yeah, to be honest, I am surprised that women between 18 and 30 haven't rioted and burned the place down.
Yeah, the whole marching thing, I think, does not helped by new government policies and stuff. But, we definitely took to the streets. And I feel like we now live in a world where we take to Twitter, or maybe not Twitter anymore. But, we take to TikTok. We don't actually go out and be angry. But then again, when we have seen people not even getting angry, just peacefully demonstrating or peacefully at a vigil for a woman who was murdered by a policeman who was known to be a creep, and they got harassed and harassed is a polite way of saying it. People don't want to take to the streets. So what can we do? Well, what we can do is create content on TikTok and create content on Instagram. So I suppose that is so we took to the streets. Now there is a feeling of
take to the internet.
Yeah, disempowered to take to the streets. So let's take to the internet. And yeah, it's scary times. And yeah, I don't have green hair and neither do you. Although I did say just before we came live, sometimes in the summer and going in swimming pools, my hair does go green.
Yeah, and mine goes purple when I use too much tinting shampoo that's supposed to knock the yellow out. So though I have been known to dye it pink occasionally.
I have got a nose ring.
My husband likes it when I dye it pink because he can spot me in supermarkets, apparently.
I know. I think
excellent reasoning.
Lots of
To finish off, I think I would say if the angry young women do decide to take to the streets and burn it all down, I'm fairly certain that there's plenty of angry old women who would be right there with them to support.
100%. So changing it up a bit, I want to talk about Stella McCartney and her new collaboration with H&M. So it comes out today, i.e. the day the podcast comes out. So I haven't actually seen real life response, because it hasn't hit the shops. But it has divided the internet that I have seen because Stella McCartney obviously is a fashion designer. She has done a collaboration with H&M before in 2005, and this is her return to it. It was hugely successful last time. Stella is obviously known as an absolute sustainable, eco-ethical designer. Her whole ethos and brand is built on that, and she has teamed up with a fast fashion brand, which is H&M. They're expecting record-breaking sales. It's expected to sell out immediately. It's apparently the cool girl edit. It's slogan tees and it's beaded. I think it's a beaded cape. I think there's snakeskin-looking animal print. It's very kind of cool girl, indie sleaze meets Ibiza, in my opinion. Don't quote me because I haven't seen it all. It's made out of recycled content and organic cottons. But it feels a bit weird. Did it feel weird in 2005? I don't think we talked about fast fashion in the same way in 2005 as we do now. Shein didn't exist, Pretty Little Thing and Boohoo didn't exist. Obviously, there was
Primark,
ASOS and Primark and things, but the fast fashion as we know today didn't exist in 2005. So it feels a bit of an odd collab. But so I do have some notes today. I don't always have notes, but today I do. H&M have said that as part of the collaboration, we have introduced a new insights board. And this is bringing together different voices and perspectives to create a space for curiosity and listening, because we want to influence change. And we're aware of like animal welfare issues, and we are becoming more sustainable. And we have target.
I feel like none of those words actually mean anything.
Well, the next thing I've written on my book is greenwashing ? Which is basically when words are said but don't really mean anything. Are they going to create actual change? Are they going to, look at human rights? Are they going to meet their targets? They say they're reducing emissions. It's a conscious collection, recycling some. They're recycling bins in store. But here's the thing. In 2022, which was only 4 years ago, I had to do the maths then, there was a bit of a greenwashing scandal with H&M. Basically, they introduced sustainability scores onto their products. But there was an investigation by Quartz who said these scorecards weren't accurate. The quote was, these scorecards were not just inaccurate, they were deceptive, and some garments had higher environmental impact on them than standard counterparts in the shop. And they were sued. So that's only 4 years ago. Since then, they have created more targets that they're going to reach by 2030, but there's not a lot out there on how they're really doing. No, not from an external person looking into it perspective. All we have is what they say. And the thing is about fast fashion is, can it ever be truly sustainable? Because the model is fast. Something is trending, whether it was on TikTok or on the red carpet or whatever. We need to get it. We need to get it in quick. And they do that, not just them, all these companies, times hundreds and thousands. So there's so much product, more product than we need, more product than can be sold. So what's its end of life like? What's the waste like on these products? So yes, there's recycling bins. And yes, there's, recycled cotton or ethical cotton, and there's some recycled polyester, but it's still, But it's like, these are all small things when the big issue is fast fashion as a whole.
Yeah, so the big issue is the first R, which is reduce.
Yes, good point. Reduce. So what I'd love to talk about, because there's a couple of things to talk about here. Obviously, we can talk about fast fashion in a bit, because we've talked about it before, actually, but we can talk about it again around, it does create affordable clothing for people. So there's that bit. But I think first, let's just talk about the kind of the paradox, I feel, of the designer that's most known for sustainability teaming up with not the worst fast fashion brand on the high street or in the world, but fast fashion nonetheless. Does that feel a bit odd to you?
Thoughts? So my first thought is, as a fashion designer, do you automatically put yourself out of that ethical sustainability thing? Because you're always trying to sell
products,
sell things to people. You're trying to sell a product. So you don't want people to just buy one and then never buy from you again. You want them to keep buying from you, and you're producing seasonal collections. So there's kind of an issue like right behind that, right in there. But I think taking on the entire fashion industry might be a little bit beyond the scope of of my life. We've got the patriarchy to deal with first. Maybe we'll move on to the fashion industry halfway through. So yeah, can you ever justifiably say sustainable like that? But working with H&M, I'm interested because obviously we don't know what the kind of terms of the deal are in the background.
No.
Was there some kind of discussion with her where she was like, okay, yeah, I'll do another collection with you because it sold so well last time, but is she then responsible for making them put this board in place which is going to do all the greenwashing, and is currently investing in large brushes and pots of green paint? Or do you know what I mean? We don't know. Has she done this deal on a thing that could maybe make some progress? And the other thing is I guess I always have this kind of feeling when things like this happen that sometimes any progress is good progress. So obviously you don't want them to lie, but if it's a fast fashion company that's now having any kind of awareness of the environmental impact of what they're producing and making any effort to reduce that environmental impact, surely that's better than them not making any effort to reduce that impact.
Well, I think they are making some effort, because they all have to make some effort because laws and rules, regulations have been put into place. So that's happening. My fear is almost the opposite of that, which is like a tick box exercise. Well, we've got this eco bit over here, and actually we don't need to think about it that much because it's going to sell out in 24 hours. We don't have to worry about that for another year till we do another collection. And it's almost like we've done our bit, because I doubt, obviously I haven't seen the contract either, one person doesn't have the power to change an entire company's ethics and sustainability pledges, because she would if she became the CEO or the main designer or something, but she's collaborating on a collection. Yeah. So I worry that it's like, so next time someone picks them up, or the next company that does something similar, they go, oh yeah, but we did this collection with Stella. it had ethical cotton in it, So it's kind of like, yes, it's good, but I feel,
it's tokenistic.
Could she have done something with somebody else, or
like who?
I don't know. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Or an affordable range for herself.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brand some designer collabs. I mean, they've done, obviously H&M have done them before. They did one, Karl Lagerfeld, for example, and it just sold out instantly. So I think if that's the model, they know it's going to work and they're going to make a load of money on Friday. From H&M's perspective. It's like happy days. I mean, they might get some positive press about sustainability.
Yeah. But I do feel a bit like this. It goes into those kind of luxury beliefs again, doesn't it? Like we were talking about a minute ago, that it's great. Stella McCartney gets to be an ethical designer, and she can release a collection every year or every season, and say, this is ethical, this is recycled, everything's, but it will be limited pieces and it will be very expensive. Whereas not everybody will have the luxury of buying those pieces from Stella McCartney. They might like her designs and then be looking to replicate that from cheaper fashion. So maybe a collaboration with H&M would give them a way to do that, kind of outside of the ethical considerations. But is having those ethical... I feel like there's levels.
What's level one?
So you have the luxury to think about whether your clothes are even ethical or not.
Absolutely.
If you are rich enough to buy Stella McCartney. But I don't think that then exempts you from overconsumption. I think there's kind of levels. So like level one, if you have that privilege to think about whether your clothes are coming from an ethical designer, then that's fantastic. But that doesn't exempt you from overconsumption. So you could buy, if you are buying, thousands of pieces of clothing and half of it's going to landfill, it doesn't matter whether it came from Stella McCartney's collection and is all made from ethical cotton and recycled materials, if you are then contributing to wastefulness. So it's great that you've got that kind of level of privilege. Then level two will be that, you can't afford to be buying these clothes that come from ethical designers and Stella McCartney, but you do still have a choice about overconsumption. If your clothes can come from Primark, I'm going to say that this comes from Primark while we're here, but your clothes can come from Primark or fast fashion in anything. But if you are still wearing it 20 years later, or you're thoughtfully buying pieces, or even buying those pieces secondhand, then you may actually be contributing less to the ethical issues around fast fashion than somebody who is at level one and going, well, it's fine because my entire wardrobe is ethical cotton. So I do think we have to remember those 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and say, you don't get to ignore the first R just because everything you buy is reused or recycled. What do you think about that? Because I know that you're very much a vintage and charity shop person, which I have been in the past, but energy levels and stuff I haven't done a good charity shop sweep in years. Again, I think we've discussed before that having that time and ability is a bit of a privilege as well, because it takes a hunt for charity shops.
I also see content creators doing secondhand charity shop hauls on TikTok, and they've bought masses. And they're doing them every single day. And I think, well, whilst you're not spending huge amounts of money, you're buying a lot. So you're still over consuming. I have tasked myself to only spend £40 a month on myself from a kind of fashion perspective. The stuff I basically don't need. And I'm overspent this month. I'll do the post on Friday. I have bought more because I went on Vinted, which is the problem with Vinted. You end up buying more because you're sitting there and you're scrolling. So you're still over consuming. But by setting myself this budget, I have stopped going to a charity shop and just buying it because it's there and it's cool and it's cheap. I've now gone, yeah, it's nice, but I don't need that. And what's then happened is I've bought 2 belts this month. Wait till you see them. They're amazing. And I've gone, my God, that belt is like iconic 1980s designer, and it's amazing. And whereas historically I'd have bought like loads of stuff, loads and loads just because it was there and because it was nice. Whereas now I'm going, it has to be really good. So I think back to your question, you can over consume secondhand as well. So overconsumption is definitely a really important thing, and it's something that I've always had a problem with because I love my fashion. So I used to, when I was in my 20s, that's all I did. Spend money on fashion, literally. But the good news is I still wear some of it at 53. I did a TikTok this week of handbags that I had from the 90s from Accessorize that I used to work, because I kept all my favourites. And everyone's like, oh my God, they're amazing. But then one person's gone, why have you kept them? Or how can you have kept them all? And it's like, because I keep things. But even that as a concept, because we're just quite disposable, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be landfill.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can give things to charity shop and you can give things for free and you can sell your stuff. You can do all that. But the point is if you love it, keep it, like look after it. That seems to be like,
I do have some things tucked away, I think, in like the backs of cupboards. But like I've said before, when I was diagnosed with cancer in like 2021 and then put on 3 stone really quickly, I had a mental breakdown and sent like 20 bags of stuff to charity. So I am not wearing a lot of those old clothes anymore, on the basis that present me hates old me for having a breakdown and sending them all to the charity shop in a fit of pique, where I was like, no, none of it fits anymore, and just had to throw everything away.
But for me,
and before that I was, though.
Yeah, but I have to recognise I have privilege because I live in a house where there is room. I have a spare room. Not everybody has a spare room. The spare room is also my dressing room. All my wardrobes are in there. I mean, to be fair, I do need to assess it because I can't kind of get in the wardrobe right now. So I do need to have a clear out. But, I have bags in tissue paper under the spare bed in a box, but not everybody has that. So there's privilege even in that.
That's much better storage than I do, where I just like bung it in a bag and pull it out like a wrinkled rag. I like the tissue paper.
Yeah, I do try and look after it. But there's privilege there in that, isn't there? So I think that's the other argument about fast fashion as a whole, as we've talked about it before. But, people that say, well, just buy secondhand. Well, buying secondhand takes time. And if you need warm clothes and you go to a charity shop, you need to find warm clothes that fit you, that are in budget, that you want to wear. And there might not even be anything in the charity shop when you go there. So you got to go to 5 charity shops, and that takes time, doesn't it?
Energy.
But even on Vinted, there's a top I'm watching at the moment by a brand that my husband used to love in the early noughties, and it's a really cool top. They've sent me an offer. It's only £5, but there's Vinted fees, that's £6, plus there's postage, so it's £10. And I wrote to her and said, oh, it looks quite small. Can you, what size is it? Is it an 8 or a 10, and what are the measurements and stuff? And it was a bit like, it's only a £5 to me, back at me. And it's like, yeah, but that's £10. And whilst I might be able to afford £10, not everybody can afford £10.
And I still don't want to buy something that then doesn't fit.
Well, this is it. So say I spend £10 because it's not the most money in the world, but it's still £10. Then I'm left with the product that I don't want, that doesn't fit. So then I've got to sell it on Vinted, and it'll probably sit in, she's had it on for 7 months. It will sit in my spare room for 7 months. And actually, so again, it's easy to say, well, just buy on Vinted. It's, it's secondhand. Recycle is good, but it still costs money and takes time, and you can be wasteful.
And at least you can try stuff on and send it back if you order from the fast fashion places, if you order new stuff, which is a thing. So that is an aspect of fast fashion as well, is the hauls and the returns policies and things like that. So recently I noted that ASOS have introduced a fee for returns, and also you won't be able to renew your ASOS premium membership where you get like next day delivery and stuff. If you return, and I saw people complaining about this, was amazing, but it was the percentage is if you return over like 80% of what you've bought in a year. And considering the fact that they've bought this in, there must be a high percentage of people who are returning over 80% of what they've purchased from ASOS in a year, which is a really high percentage.
I think and
considering the money, time and effort it takes for them to put stuff back into sale, we all know that quite often things don't go back into sale, which is when then things end up in landfill. So is that an ethical policy or a greedy policy?
Well, I think it's partly because of all the influencer hauls. I mean, you see ASOS try-ons. Well, I see them on TikTok all the time. And they say they're sending them back, or they're sending some of them back. And they're obviously not keeping everything because they don't think they can afford to keep everything. So I kind of get it. But I'm in between sizes. I don't know what that's going to look like on me. We don't have the high street anymore, really, do we? And in fact, the Primark and H&M and Zara are probably the only kind of fashion, young fashion as well, shops on the high street. ASOS is online. Well, I want to try them on. I want to feel the fabric. I want to see if it fits me. So the fact that I could be penalised for sending things back to the whole vanity sizing and just sizing in general. Well, if you all sorted out your sizing, we wouldn't have to send it all back, would we?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, well, I like both of those tops, but I can only keep one, but I'd like to try them both on, which is what you'd do in a shop, wouldn't you? So to penalise somebody, it feels wrong. But then I get cross with any company, because there's not even just fast fashion companies that aren't fashion at all. And they're like, if you change your mind, it costs £5 to send it back. And it's like, well, but I can only buy it online. What if I don't like it? What if it's too big? What if I think that's naughty. I think that's greedy. I think it needs to be built into the model.
Can't remember. There was some kind of rule about refunding postage costs.
I don't think you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, because but I think you have to specifically ask for it. Because I had a row with Apricot a couple of years ago, but never mind. It's not relevant now. I did get quite angry about it and start sending them very snotty emails because they kept my £3 delivery, and all of their things on their website had different returns policies and stuff.
Well, I don't think you're supposed to charge. I thought the law.
No, you have to refund everything.
The distance selling rules.
Yes, yeah, distance selling rules, guys. Go and have a look. Yeah, 80% is high though, right? I mean, if you bought 2 sizes of every single thing you purchased and sent one back, you'd still only be on 50%.
Yeah, but is 80% because it's all crap?
Yeah, again, that's a very good point. That if when it turns up and it looks amazing online, and then you
on
go,
the model,
this is made from paper.
And 80% is high though, isn't it? But then there's quite a few other collabs. So Victoria Beckham has just done a collaboration with Gap, and I've been seeing people reviewing that online.
I feel like I haven't heard of Gap for years.
Well, I know. And I'm now going to sing it back to overconsumption. I bought a really cool Y2K Gap jacket on Vinted last week. It's still for a ride.
Sorry, it's on Vinted.
Yeah, on Vinted. And I was like, cool. Because that's so retro. And then, and my daughter for Christmas wanted one of those, how in the Y2K, everyone had a Gap sweatshirt with Gap in big on it.
Yeah.
She wanted one of them for Christmas. And I was like, gosh, wow, is that now classed as vintage and, retro and cool? Anyway, so I was thinking they were a thing of the past. And then Victoria Beckham's done a collab with them. And I'm like, oh, they still exist. And what I've seen is it's actually, it seems like a really good collaboration from a design perspective, because she's really minimal and quite structured, and Gap are just denims and kind of stone beige colour, canvas jacket.
I always think of them as preppy.
Yeah, and so the two, from what I've seen, there's a trench coat, there's a pair of jeans, there's a boxy white tee. It's very Gap and very Victoria Beckham. So it feels like bingo, well done. But then it's does Victoria Beckham need to do a Gap collaboration? But then again, having seen her documentary, The Fashion Line struggles, but her makeup, she's making an absolute fortune from the beauty brand. So it's a bit why? I always think, why are you collaborating? What's the motivation here?
Maybe. So I guess it's not always about money though, is it? It's, I don't know.
I suppose access to more people. Maybe entry level in, as you said.
Yeah. So how do you feel about collaborations in general? I mean, I have a dress which actually a friend sent me, which I absolutely adore, which was from the Vampire's Wife collaboration with H&M a few years ago, which was absolutely gorgeous. How do you feel about collaborations in general? I mean, you're slightly more fashiony than me, I think. I love my clothes and stuff, but you were always like, oh, this brand did this brand did this, and I'm like, oh,
I know, I am.
I wasn't paying attention.
I am a fashion girl. Well, Kate Moss in the 90s and her Topshop collaboration was absolutely iconic. So it's been going on, and obviously, further back than that. I think historically, I've been all over it. I think I said at the beginning, when Stella did her collaboration in 2005, I don't think anybody was over-analysing everything. I think obviously hello, we've got a podcast where we over-analyse everything.
But pot is kettle.
But this is kind of what you and I, but also the entire internet does now. So I think historically, there were collaborations and nobody really cared. They either bought them or they ignored it, whereas now everyone has to have an opinion. And I think a lot of people say, did they actually design it? When it comes to like designer perfume, like Britney's perfume, did she actually create that perfume or not?
Are they just sticking her name on it?
Yeah, I think there's other, people come out of Love Island and then they have a collaboration with, I don't know, Leftie. Did they?
It's quite often things like, and Very and things like that. Quite often will do a collaboration with the reality TV stars, yeah.
But I have to be careful because I do get sucked in. So Karl Lagerfeld, I think it was Karl Lagerfeld, it might have been somebody else, did a collaboration with H&M and there were some pieces and I was like, I don't want this, I'm not into this, I'm not having it. And then it was obviously selling really fast and I'm like, oh, I really want that necklace. But I didn't buy it because it was sold out, but I might have done. But there's also, I tell you what also happens in these collaborations, they sell out and then they end up on eBay for 3 times the price 10 minutes later. So that's happening a lot as well, which it just like is a bit sad, isn't it? But it's
which
kind
is
of
not reusing.
No, it's profiteering. So we will wait to see if we like it. There is a body, what do you call it? A body, like a bodysuit.
Bodysuit.
With Stella written on it, which would be cool if you were called Stella. There is this kind of beaded bra with tassely, but which, to be fair, looks amazing. I don't think I'd wear it. I'm not sure if you'd wear it, but if we were like 20 in Ibiza, we probably
my
would.
issue with things is not whether I would wear them, it's where I would wear them.
Yeah,
Ibiza
30 years ago.
Like, this maybe does not suit my life when my life is mostly coming here to talk to you and walking the dogs around the block.
Some of it
in my pajamas.
Really like there's this red asymmetrical off the like one shoulder showing like little this dress, tiny, it's really, really short. It's like, again, Ibiza, clubbing. If you know, let's face it, there will be lots of 20-somethings or maybe 30-somethings that will buy it and it looks amazing, but it's just I'll watch this space to see if there's any backlash.
Yeah. So if you love fashion, it's very difficult to then talk about that the reduce part of it, because part of fashion is you just want to try new things and create new looks and stuff like that. You have to get adventurous with your own wardrobe. But, sometimes that belt would just be perfect.
I know. And taking ethics and slave labor and all that stuff, put that to the side. And I'm not putting it to the side because it's not relevant, but just, putting that to the side. Fashion is very female focused. I know men have fashion too, before anyone comes at me. But again, it's almost seen as frivolous.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit like boy bands and teenage girls. It's frivolous, but actually
anything women are into is frivolous.
It's frivolous, and that equals fashion. And
whereas tailoring and suits and things that might be men, well, that's
serious and structural, and yes, important. Exactly. So I do think there's. I mean, I said fast fashion aside, there is this rhetoric that we are all just silly. I have people rocking up and telling me I am silly and unfeminist and, anti-women and because I get really excited about, a piece of fashion. And I'm like,
yeah. No, I love that when people are like, oh my God, you're so vacuous. Don't you have anything more important to worry about? And you go, yes. Like I put every single thing I think about in a day on the internet. Actually, maybe I do.
But also I don't only think about what I'm wearing. Like I do have other thoughts in my head, parenting, looking after my parents, as well as the frickin' state of the world. But of course.
Sometimes maybe it's nice to just go, oh, what top shall I wear while I smash the patriarchy?
Yeah, maybe not a bodysuit with Stella written on it, though. Or Stella the beer, that was just reminded me of there as well.
Yeah. That's the collaboration we want to see.
Stella. And on that note, we will see what happens. Thank you for joining us for another roundup of midlife chat, hot takes, and occasional moaning. Well, quite a bit of moaning.
Make sure you hit subscribe so your podcast app gently nudges you every Friday, because honestly, who remembers anything without a reminder this day? And also, we like people liking us because we're very needy.
And if you fancy being extra lovely, leave us a rating or a review. It helps more brilliant women like you find us. Have a great weekend, everyone, and make sure you find time for yourself. You deserve it.